It's my second to last day here in the mountains of Dharamshala. It's also the end of October, so it's very cold, but thankfully the sun is up. Where's the sun? Well, you can see that it's super sunny. The temperature is warmer right now, and there's construction going on. And I was waiting for the hammering to stop to film this, but now that I'm here, I think I'll just film it anyway. I've been living in the mountains for 4 months now, and here are a number of changes I've noticed in me since moving here, and I'm about to leave in a couple of days, which is a little bit sad, but the cold is something I just can't bear. I hope you are able to hear me over the sound of all the hammering and construction, as well as these cricket-like creatures who love to make sounds whenever there's sunlight, I've noticed. No bird sound today, but I think that's okay. Maybe the birds have moved south for warmer weather, and that's what I'm going to do as well. So I've got a little tablet here, and I'm going to refer to it. One of the best things that has happened since I've moved here is that I no longer cough every time I laugh really hard. I think this must have to do with the quality of air here and the fact that there's less air pollution. I think also I've been living slightly dust-free, given that my space is much smaller, so I can clean it better. Not so sure about that, but definitely the quality of air. I mean, you can see blue skies here all the time, guys, all the time. The second change is that I've been eating a much greater variety of food, different types of cuisine, and I loved cooking. Back when I was in Delhi, I didn't really love cooking, but I loved to try out different ingredients and experiment. But over here, I've cooked less, but this little place I've found is like a food paradise. There's just so many different kinds of food, fantastic food, great variety, and I've been trying everything, you know, everything that is vegetarian or plant-based, and my goodness, I've had a wonderful time. My taste buds have had a wonderful time here. The third point is the reason why I moved here, and that is having and being happy in casual company. You know, I've met dozens and dozens and dozens of different people here, had lots of conversations, sometimes only one or two deep ones, or sometimes hardly one or two. And then with a small number of people, I've become very close in a very short amount of time, and I think I'll keep those friends for life. So that's why I moved here. I was so tired and sad being so isolated during the lockdown in Delhi and even afterwards, that I wanted to go somewhere where I could meet people and talk to people, and I've definitely been able to do that here. The fourth thing is that I've realized I need way less than I actually carried. I don't know what I was thinking when I moved here. I carried so many things, 3 massive bags of stuff. It was way too heavy for me to carry, and I needed a lot of help actually. And in my journeys forth, I plan to carry significantly less because things are a burden. Honestly, things are a burden. Even an extra pencil is a burden. That has been made abundantly clear to me as I've spent time here. And also, there were times when I didn't really like this place and I wanted to move. It wasn't this place so much, like I was just not in a good mental state and I wanted to move. But I thought I couldn't because of how much stuff I had. So my stuff kind of kept me prisoner here in a way. I couldn't even go on a short trip or just, you know, move to a slightly different location because I was just so afraid of carrying all those things that I'd carried here. So I need way less to live, thrive, let alone survive. Much less than I brought here. The fifth point is realizing the importance of sunshine, sunlight, natural sunlight here that I'm kind of soaking in as I'm speaking to you, as well as sort of just staring into nature with a blank mind, you know, just sort of spending time doing nothing outside in nature under sunlight, that really helps me a lot. And it kind of leads to the next point, which is that I have slowed down so much. My mind is less frantic, and I don't know if I'm able to think clearer, but I have fewer things to think about. So everything I think about, you know, I do so without a lot of panic or stress. I still stressed out quite a lot, so this is definitely new for me. I actually saw a doctor, and the doctor told me to slow down. And somehow those words just like magically worked, because everyone in my life has been telling me to like just calm down and slow down, but hearing it from a doctor really helped. And so that's what I've been doing. Like every time the sun is out, I just take a chair and sit out here and just soak myself and rest and look at the birds and the trees and the movement of, the clouds, and it's just so wonderful. So I think that's point 5 and point 6, but let me just look at my notes. Yeah, point 6 is slowing down a lot, and especially in my mind, being in a thoughtless state is very easy for me to do when I'm in nature and under the sun. The 7th one is probably one of the best lessons I've learned, and I hope to carry it with me for the rest of my life, and that is I've learned to set boundaries with people, and I'm starting to set boundaries with myself as well. And the more I do this, the more, like, the happier I am, because I'm better rested, just in terms of, energetically, physically, as well as socially. Like, I think I have more introverted tendencies, so I burn myself out when I'm interacting with people too much. But when I first came here, I was so desperate to like be around people that I stretched myself too thin. I was like constantly going out everywhere, and sometimes I was like, no, I just want to stay home, but like, no, but my friends are calling me, what should I do? And I would always go out, and that was not good for me. So boundaries, big lesson here, and still something I'm learning, but it started, and it's really benefiting me big time. So the succinct notes I took down for number 7 actually says listening to myself to set boundaries and make decisions, especially in the social sphere. Social sphere. I think that summarizes it better than that little long explanation I just gave. Okay, so let's move on to number 8, which is realizing that leaving my old environment doesn't automatically make me leave my problems behind. I carry them with me. And while I was distracted by everything new for a while, the problems rose up and showed me that they were still there. Still there, okay? So this is something I should have known, because I've moved a lot in my life. But just because I've entered a new space doesn't mean I've become a new person. The things that I carry with me are still there in my mind and in my body. So, having a new environment can help, maybe can help motivate change, but then like the change needs to be active. That's what I've found. Yeah. So, but like, I've really opened myself up to a lot of new experiences here, and part of them is working on these problems that I have, and I'm making progress, and I'm feeling really optimistic, and I have like a new sense of self-love, which I might talk about in another video in the future. How I've started loving myself. Like for the first time properly. Okay, and I think the last one here, number 9, is that this one is a small one. I shop in person for everything instead of online for absolutely everything. And this is kind of the way I used to be for a while. I stopped shopping online, but having said that, I did make use of the Diwali sales and stuff, so including getting a new phone because this phone is dying. So hopefully in the future my future videos will be in better quality with better sound, inshallah. We'll see. My name is Aleif, and thank you for watching this video. Please leave me any comments if you'd like to, and I think this might be my last video from the mountains. Not that I've edited the previous two yet, but I'm going to be heading down south next, so maybe I'll post more videos from there. But hey, another change, number 10, is that I don't like to be around technology as much as I used to be. And so, therefore, I don't spend time, taking videos or editing, definitely not editing videos, unless it's like super stormy weather or something, which there has been quite a lot of in my last 4 months here. That's when I'm sort of, curled up in bed thinking or looking at my devices, but I'd much rather be out. I'd much rather be social, especially with the good company I've managed to make here. And I'm feeling very, very lucky that I've met some beautiful souls here. I'd probably say about 5 people um, who I want to keep in contact with for the rest of my life. So 5 people in 4 months is fantastic. Yeah, and then a lot of different acquaintances as well. But these 5 people have really found a place in my heart. So thank you, Miss M, Mr. D, and Mr. R, wonderful Miss M, number 2 Miss M, and Mr. K, who's a bit of a weirdo, but yeah, wonderful person. So all these wonderful souls. I'm not gonna say their names because I haven't gotten their permission to speak about them on YouTube, but I think they know who they are. At some point I might share this video with them when I feel more confident. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching. Bye!